The Galactic Academy's metallurgy class hummed with the sound of plasma torches and molecular forges. Students from 17 different species worked at their stations, their appendages manipulating tools designed for precision metalwork. At Station 47, Jessica Martinez sat alone, staring at the assignment hologram with an expression that made her instructor, Professor Keltharn, uneasy. The assignment is simple, the Vexian professor had announced at the beginning of the semester. Forge a blade. Any blade. The materials lab is fully stocked with durasteel, titanium alloys, carbon nanotubes, and crystalline compounds. You have 6 standard weeks. Begin. The other students had immediately rushed to claim the best materials. James Chen, the only other human in the class, had selected a beautiful strip of durasteel and was already sketching designs for a combat knife. The Krillian student next to him was requisitioning molecular bonding equipment for a ceremonial sword that would sing when swung through air. Jessica, however, had walked past the gleaming metals and advanced composites. She had left the materials lab entirely. Professor Keltharn found her 3 days later in the xenobiology department, requesting access to the specimen storage. "Ms. Martinez," he said, his translator rendering his clicking mandibles into standard. "You haven't checked out any materials." The assignment deadline. "I know, Professor," Jessica interrupted, holding up a data pad. "I'm requesting permission to use this." She showed him an image of what appeared to be a fossilized bone, approximately 30 centimeters long, from a creature native to the university's host planet. Bone? Keltharn's confusion was evident even through his alien features. "Ms. Martinez, the assignment is to forge a blade. To demonstrate your understanding of metallurgical principles, heat treatment, molecular alignment. The assignment was to forge a blade, Professor. You didn't specify the material." Jessica's dark eyes held a glint that reminded Keltharn why humans, despite being one of the newer species in the galactic community, had earned such a peculiar reputation. Keltharn had consulted the assignment parameters. Technically, she was correct. He approved the request with deep misgivings. The other students thought Jessica had lost her mind. James tried to talk sense into her over lunch in the academy cafeteria. "Jess, come on. We have access to materials that can cut through starship hulls." "Why are you messing around with a fossil?" Jessica smiled, turning the ancient bone over in her hands. It was dense, heavy, from some massive predator that had stalked the university planet millions of years ago. "Do you know what humans were doing while the Vexians were developing plasma forging? While the Krillians were singing their metal into shape?" "Enlighten me," James said, though he was starting to understand. "We were in caves, James, sitting around fires, figuring out how to not die. And we had rocks, sticks, and bones." She ran her thumb along the fossil's length. "Our ancestors looked at the femur of a dead animal and saw a weapon, a tool, a key to survival. They didn't have molecular forges or durasteel. They had ingenuity." Over the following weeks, the metallurgy lab became divided into 2 worlds. On one side, students wielded advanced technology, their blades taking shape in showers of sparks and precisely controlled furnaces. Molecular scanners ensured perfect edge geometry. Gravitic presses aligned crystal structures at the atomic level. On the other side, Jessica sat with simple tools that looked primitive even by human standards. She had acquired several pieces of sandstone from the geology department. She worked the bone against the stone in long, patient strokes. The sound was rhythmic, almost meditative, scrape, scrape, scrape. Hour after hour, day after day, she shaped the fossil. She studied the natural curve of the bone, understanding how millions of years of evolution had already optimized its structure. She didn't fight against the material. She worked with it, revealing the blade that had always been hidden within. Professor Keltharn watched her progress with growing fascination. Other instructors began to stop by, curious about the human who had rejected their laboratory's advanced equipment. They saw her wrap the handle with synthetic cord, using a grip pattern that human hands had perfected over hundreds of thousands of years. They watched her test the edge against various materials, adjusting the angle with nothing but experience and intuition. "It will never match the molecular edge of a properly forged blade," a Krillian professor observed dismissively. "Won't it?" Jessica replied and continued sharpening. The final presentation day arrived. Students displayed their creations on individual pedestals, each blade a testament to advanced metallurgical science. James had created a beautiful knife with a Durasteel core and carbon nanotube edge that could theoretically cut through tank armor. The Krillian student's sword did indeed sing, its crystalline structure vibrating at frequencies that made music with every movement. Then came Jessica's turn. She placed her bone blade on the pedestal. In the stark lighting of the presentation hall, it looked ancient and primitive next to its neighbors, because it was. The other students whispered and laughed. Professor Kelthorne approached for the evaluation. "Explain your process, Ms. Martinez." Jessica picked up the blade and the whisper stopped. There was something about the way she held it, the way it seemed to belong in her hand, that commanded attention. "My ancestors," she began, her voice carrying through the silent hall, didn't wait for the right materials or the perfect tools. They used what they had. They observed, they adapted, they persevered. This bone belonged to an apex predator that dominated its ecosystem for millennia. Its structure was already optimized by evolution. I just revealed it. She approached the testing station where various materials awaited the edge tests. The other blades had performed admirably, cutting through synthetic targets with precision. Jessica raised her bone blade and brought it down on a block of standard polymer. The blade cut clean through. She moved to the next test, a rope woven from high-tensile synthetic fibers. One stroke. The rope fell in 2 pieces. The hall was silent now. Even the dismissive Krillian professor had stopped clicking in amusement. "Humans didn't join the galactic community because we had the best technology," Jessica continued, moving through each test with methodical precision. "We joined because we survive. We adapt, we make do. We look at a problem and find solutions that others overlook because they're too simple, too primitive, too obvious." She completed the final test, a simulation of combat stress that measured edge retention under repeated impacts. Her bone blade, sharpened with nothing but stone and patience, maintained its edge. Professor Kelthorne examined the results, his mandibles clicking in a pattern that his translator rendered as amazed laughter. "Ms. Martinez, your blade meets all the technical requirements. Moreover," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "you have taught us something today. Something about resourcefulness. About seeing possibility where others see limitation." James grinned from across the room. He'd suspected this would happen. It was the most human thing possible, to take the hardest path, use the simplest tools, and somehow make it work through sheer stubbornness and creativity. As the class dispersed, students clustered around Jessica's station, examining the bone blade with new respect. The Krillian student, whose singing sword had been the technological marvel of the class, clicked thoughtfully. "Your species. You really did start with nothing, didn't you?" Jessica smiled, carefully wrapping her blade in cloth. "We started with everything, actually. We started with problems that needed solving, and brains capable of solving them. The rest," she gestured at the advanced laboratory around them, "the rest is just details." That semester, Professor Kelthorne modified his assignment parameters. But the story of the human who brought a bone to a forge spread throughout the Galactic Academy, becoming another entry in humanity's growing legend, a species that looked at the impossible and saw an opportunity, that took the path everyone else ignored and somehow made it work. Because that's what humans do. They adapt. They survive. They sharpen bones in a world of molecular forges and somehow come out cutting just as deep. And the galaxy was still learning that when it came to humans, primitive was just another word for proven.